Now, Eastwood Minster is a close-knit community with a few drop stitches. And Steve Archibald is one of them, and his antics caused difficulties for Jess Wilson, among others. So let's join them. So he's 26. His parents separated when he was 6, and he'd not seen his dad since. He occasionally texted his mum, who'd left the market town a few years ago, and she'd lived with a string of unsuitable partners, sometimes more than one at a time. As a teenager, he collected Asbos for a hobby, and he once got done for taking without consent. Drunk and disorderly was another speciality. But when the local police community support officer took an interest and helped him get a job as a glazier's mate, Steve's life began to turn around. Jess Wilson was 2 years younger, and until moving in with Steve, had lived with her parents in what locals called the upper quarter. Always smartly dressed, Jess's dark brown hair was tied in a chignon bun. A childcare assistant at the local preschool, her life had been far more stable and secure than her fiancé's. Her parents took to Steve quite quickly, which was a surprise to all of them. But their welcome and affirmation was an experience he'd never had from his own. Of not dissimilar build and height, although Steve's hair was a lot shorter, a number 3 fade, they'd been together for 2 years and lived in a rented furnished flat above the co-op in the high street. Jess had proposed to Steve a week ago over a box of fish and chips in the park. She'd seen the difference in him and was proud of all that he'd done to get himself to a better place. She wanted them to spend the rest of their lives together, and he said he did too. Steve still had the occasional night out with his mates, and over the years, cheap alcohol often provided more than he bargained for, as the tattooed vulture, which peered out from under his left armpit, bore witness. His mates were a rough crowd, and Jess worried they might take him back to his old ways. But they'd seen the difference too. Some even wished they could be the same. That Sunday afternoon, Jess and Steve weren't the first couple to stand outside J. Frampton Jewellers. Arm in arm, like 2 excited schoolchildren, they looked through the window of the closed shop. That one, Jess said finally with a smile. Let's come back Saturday then, her fiancé replied. No, the Saturday. Michael Frampton kept everything just as his father had before him. J. Frampton Jewellers had stood in the high street for over 60 years, while other retailers came and went. It was an old-fashioned shop whose clientele received old-fashioned service. As Jess and Steve opened the door, a bell tinkled in an old-fashioned way. It had sounded the arrival of many customers over the years, many coming to celebrate, many not knowing what they wanted, many just wanting a browse. Pleasant and customer-focused as always, Michael listened as Jess explained they couldn't afford much. She pointed towards the lone showcase fixed to the wall of the external passageway which ran alongside the shop. As the shopkeeper returned, requisite tray in hand, the bell tinkled once more. "When's the big day?" he asked. "Not till this time next year," Jess replied. "Is it going to be at St. Mark's?" "Yes," replied Jess. "In fact, we're going to see the vicar on Monday. The reception's at Eastwood Court. There'll only be a few of us, but we're looking forward to it." "We wanted to go to the hotel on the edge of town," Steve added, "but it's closing and turning into some sort of death and dying place." "Ah, yes, I know where you mean," Michael responded to his customer's rather awkward description. He fingered the buttons on his pinstripe waistcoat, partially hidden by a matching jacket. Below his half-rimmed glasses, a smile masked the sadness he felt. Michael Frampton found it hard to keep going after his wife's death 3 years previously. Nearing retirement, the shop was his life, but that too would die soon. Business wasn't what it was used to be, and he wanted to make the most of this next stage of life. He'd had some contact with his son and would like to see more of him, but they didn't have that much in common. Things had been rather strained since Janet's death. He smiled to himself at the memory of the day their son was born. He wanted to call the young Mr. Frampton Peter, after the pop singer. Janet sang, "I want you to show me the way," all afternoon, so they didn't. "The vicar's lovely. You'll like her," Michael continued, remembering the couple whose wedding she'd taken the previous weekend. "Would you like to try it on?" he asked Jess somewhat unnecessarily. Sliding onto her third finger, a nudge took it over the knuckle. "Perfect," she said. "Steve said he liked it too." Before long, a small red dot marked the price tag as Michael replaced the tray in the showcase. There it would stay, awaiting Steve's return with the credit card he left at the flat. Michael liked to keep a full display, and a red dot was a sign that people were buying. Jess had arranged to be with her parents the rest of the day, trying on dresses, visiting the florist, talking with the people at Eastwood Court. Steve was going with his mates to watch T20 cricket, England versus New Zealand. They were taking the train, so no danger of drink driving this time. He told Jess he'd pick up the ring before he went.